What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by the Real Estate Cheat Code. And I have Amy Paul with us from Emerge Real Estate Premium. Amy, I'm so excited to have you on because, we've been social media friends for a little while, and we haven't actually had the chance to really connect. So, these podcasts for me, especially meeting an agent for really the first time to kind of learn the story with no background is always exciting for me because, I know this is for the listeners, but selfishly I get to learn as well as we have that conversation. So thanks so much for jumping on with me today.
Of course.
So Amy, we always start, the goal of the Tell Me More podcast is to, my mission is to impact the failure rate of our industry. I feel that, it does not need to be 87% by the end of year two. I believe that, there's so many different ways to go out and build one's business, and we all have come from different walks of life. And that's the point of this conversation, this discussion, is to just keep sharing, the journeys of successful real estate agents. And success is your own definition, right? Like some people get into real estate for one thing, others get in for another. That's the goal of today. And we always start from the very beginning. I'm always curious of, backgrounds and where agents grew up and what was, family dynamic and family life like. So, what was life like for you growing up?
I don't know if I'll go back to toddler age, but
Yeah, you don't have to go back that far.
was born and raised in Columbus. I graduated from Bishop Hartley High School, which is here in town. Actually went away to college for several years, but still kept in close connections with all of my high school friends and things like that. Lived in Chicago a very brief moment after I graduated from Chicago, and I have been back in Columbus, Ohio ever since.
So growing up, did you have hobbies, interests, anything along those lines that, you
Yeah,
really enjoyed?
all kinds of things. I played sports. I swam in college. I've always been, um, I guess, into just about everything and anything you can think of from, different clubs in high school. And then once I got older and had a family, then I was very involved with the PTA and things at the schools. Pretty much anywhere and everything that can give you the opportunity to make friends and meet new people is honestly the way I've continued to grow my business since I don't even know, probably, I guess going back, I have had my license now. It'll be coming up on 20 years here in a couple months. So
Okay. Okay.
it's been
Well,
a long journey. So I've played everything from intramural soccer to intramural softball to sand volleyball to, like I said, the PTA president. So
you skipped over something and well, you didn't skip over it, but you mentioned that you went and swam in college.
yeah.
And that to me, it doesn't matter if that is D1 or D3, like that's a level of commitment that, one has to make to that craft of getting to that next level.
Yeah.
So is that, obviously you went to college. What did you go to college to focus on? Did you go because of swimming? Did you go
No,
because
I did
of,
not go because of swimming. I actually originally thought I wanted to be a pharmacist, which
okay.
did not last very long. But I have always been pretty talkative and make friends relatively easily. And I, to be 100% transparent, walked on the swim team. So I
Okay.
did not even go to college thinking I was going to be a college athlete. Obviously went to a pretty small university. Met some of the other people in the swim team. They asked me some times, and the next thing I knew, I had a cap with my name on it, and I'm, getting up at 5:30 every morning for practice. So we swam 9 times a week. It was definitely a very good training exercise as far as using, your time wisely and how do you get to, your classes done. And then you have another afternoon practice and you're traveling on the weekends and you still have, you know, friends and fun and everything like that. So I think that was a very big instigator from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, like I said, to me, it doesn't matter the level, right? It's like, when you have to be committed and dedicated to something like that.
I never said I
Before,
was good. I never said I
Well,
was
but that
going
doesn't matter. Like to me, that doesn't matter
I
because
was
in real
teasing.
estate, and you know this, being in for so long, it's a lot of agents fail is because they have too much time freedom on their hands, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
and when you have to navigate school, when you have to navigate potentially working, when you have to navigate, now you're dedicated to a team and to a sport, at that level. Like I said, whether it's Division 1,
I mean,
Division 3,
I
whatever it
hate to
is.
say it, I was really learning high level time blocking before I even knew I was doing it.
And that's what I was getting
So,
at, right? Like,
yeah.
that takes a certain level of dedicating and discipline, which,
Yeah.
as we were talking beforehand, like I find that there's these things that happen in agents' lives early on that typically has a greater impact on the real estate career. And
Yeah.
that's probably one of them, right? Because you need that in this business if
Yes.
you want to be successful at whatever level you want to be successful at.
Yeah.
Because the reality is most agents get in because they want one of three things, and most of the time it's they want the freedom, but they want typically sometimes to make more money, they want more freedom, or they want more flexibility within their schedule.
Yeah.
Well, you can have all three of those, but you actually have to build a business to get all three. And the agents that make the most money, if they're individual, probably don't have a lot of freedom and flexibility. And, if you have all the freedom, well, you might not be making all of the money. And the flexibility, that's a whole nother topic. But
Yeah.
so you go to swimming, you go thinking you want to be a pharmacist, end up graduating.
I graduated in business.
Okay.
Yes. My primary career after college, though, I actually worked for the Limited. So
Okay.
I was in retail, the home office, was a designer for, believe it or not, almost 9 years before I got my real estate license. So, um, again, looking back, and I've done kind of foreshadowing multiple times over my career, is that, it taught me to have really thick skin because I was constantly doing designs and presenting stuff to the buyers and to leadership. And, you have to be able to just accept a hard no or a start over or, whatever it is. So, um, it takes a strong personality to be a realtor sometimes, and a lot of people don't realize that getting into it.
Yeah.
So,
Did you
yeah.
always plan on coming back to Columbus after college, or is that just the opportunity?
Not necessarily. No, I wasn't a fan of what I did in Chicago, and that's when the Limited moved me back here. So, I actually was working in public relations. So,
Oh, I bet you learned some communication skills there.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you eventually make your way back to Columbus, working for Limited, doing design and that side of things. You know, lead me up to the time of, or maybe talk about the thought process and the decision of when did real estate come into the picture and why?
That's a good question. I had taken my classes, and I guess always enjoyed like the remodeling and rehab side of things. Since then, I've been remodeling houses and flipping homes, however you want to call it, since probably 2005. Um, I think that's initially what I thought I was going to do, but then I realized, being told I had to go to New York City the night before with a toddler and a dog was just not an easy and quick task. So, the Limited got a little bit much as far as demand and time frames and things like that. And I just was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to jump in both feet and see what the heck happens. So that's honestly how I started. And it's funny. Most people don't feel like they're going to be set up for failure, and I almost kind of felt like there was a good chance that could happen because, I went from making a great salary. I had 3 weeks paid vacation. I was, traveling. I was in LA and New York and Asia and all these awesome places. But at the same time, I was always reporting to somebody else and I was always making money for someone else. And I think that's kind of what it boiled down to. And I realized that if I'm going to maintain what I was previously making and my own free time and things like that, I was definitely going to put in the work and the hours, but I was putting in the hours for myself.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that's where I mean, I would force myself to sit at my desk and, build my database and, stuff like that, and handwrite cards. And I mean, I was just always a grinder because I was never willing to accept failure.
Yeah. Now, so you got into the investing side while still at the limited, flipping some homes? Yep.
It kind of happened pretty simultaneously.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
but that's the thing
Yeah.
that kind of intrigued you enough to kind of get into the real estate space.
Yeah, exactly. And I
Right.
had one thing that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way at the limited, and I'd already passed, my licensure and stuff, and I just went, this is it.
Yeah.
Today's the day, and I put in my notice. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm curious about that too because, um, I'm a big believer that, significant other, spousal support, like, you need those people or those things in your corner, right?
Yep.
At
Yep.
least your immediate people, whoever that is.
Yeah.
Um, what was that conversation like? Because there might be some people watching this or listening in that are struggling with, hey, like I got family to feed, kids, right? How do I step away from this job where I and we can say salary and W-2 is secured, that's a whole
401k. I had it all. I had all
yeah,
the.
yeah, but like, how was that conversation, right? Because you have to consider the whole
Yeah.
thing, and if
Yeah.
other people are relying on you potentially, and how do you step away from this? What was that conversation like for you?
Well, I knew that I had obviously saved some money. I knew that I was, I guess, determined enough that, I came from a family of lawyers and dentists and doctors, and just, it was, and, they kind of all looked at me like, you're going to do what? And it was almost like okay, you just wait, you watch and see. That was my biggest, everybody always talks about what is your why, what is driving you. If you have nothing driving you, you're not going to succeed. And my why was always, I'm not going to allow it. I want to make more money than anyone else that does have, these, better titles or 12 more years of school or whatever it was. So
Yeah,
that's my why. So hopefully if anybody is listening and they don't know their why, they figure it out, because that was a big kind of a light bulb for me back then, that it was like, there's no room for failure. This is all on me and I'm going to do it.
I think sometimes people struggle with their why, and I've heard this recently, that the why is typically created from trying to make someone else proud or trying to prove someone else wrong.
Yep.
And it
Yep.
sounds like that was kind of that driving force for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And-
Everybody always says, oh, I want to make money, or I want to be my own boss. And I mean, honestly, that's not really a strong enough driving force. I don't believe.
no,
So,
no,
yeah.
because I call it the North Star, right? Like the North Star is that thing that I'm always looking up and I'm always going to chase. Like I probably will never catch it, but it's this thing. I heard Elena Cardone talk about this at a conference one year, and it was like, hey, how did you and Grant Cardone, you know, get through the recession, right? And she's like, hey, we had to have a goal big enough that was going to pull us through it, not
Mhm.
push us, right? Like those are two different things that are gonna. We have to gravitate. We have to change. We have to get pulled towards this thing. Um, so when you made that jump and you're like, hey, I'm going all in, 2 feet, cutting it loose. What did you focus on? What were your first couple years like? How did you grow the business? Obviously, you dove into a little bit of the investing side, you said, but kind of walk me through you starting the business and growing it and just your mindset.
Um, well, the biggest thing is that a lot of or I guess the newer agents don't realize, is that people that already know them are going to be the ones that support them the most. So that was my biggest driving, whether it was reaching out to people that I knew from high school or even grade school, or, that I worked with previously at the limited. I mean, it was almost digging and spending hours. What are their addresses? How do I add them to my mailing list? What type of marketing am I going to do that's not, breaking the bank for somebody that's brand new? But at the same time, I was very fortunate that I had saved, money and didn't have to worry about not being able to eat that week if I mailed out, 500 postcards either. But I constantly, and I guess I didn't even mention this, but I do own my office. So there are, I think, 19 realtors now, technically under me. I'm just a manager. I don't have my broker's license, but I also train and teach all of the new agents here. And that is usually one of the biggest and first things that I tell them.
Yeah.
How many people do you already have in your contact management software? And how can you continue to grow that? And it's not just doing it once, it's doing it
Mhm.
almost weekly, if you really can. And there are numbers of way to break that down to figure out, oh, I want to have, 10 closings my first year. Well, you might have to have, 600 contacts in your database and be asking them for referrals in order to hit those numbers.
Yeah.
So it's, a lot of people don't dive in. I mean, now it's goal planning for 24, everybody's talking about that. And honestly, I admit I have not gone through. I always analyze my business towards the end of the year. Where did my clients come from? Was it advertising? Was
Mhm.
it marketing? I mean, my business is probably 90 some percent referral based, um, because I do not let my clients forget who I am, I guess is the biggest thing. When back 19 years ago, I decided that my slogan was going to be building clients for life. And I won't ever, and I know some of them have moved out of state and I can't keep in touch with
Right.
all of them, but I still do Christmas gifts. I still do or holiday gifts. I still do, Ohio State magnets every season. I still do end of the year calendars. I try to write thank you, happy birthday cards. I mean, it seems very daunting to somebody new that's like, how am I going to keep up with all this? Well, after a while and so many people in your database, you realize when you have to hire somebody to help you do it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of
Yeah.
where I was at. I've had an assistant now for about, I think, 6 years. So
Awesome.
that was a big turning point in my business.
What how did you change the narrative and the view of Amy from the limited to Amy, the real estate agent and professional? Because I think some agents struggle with that as well, especially with their sphere of influence.
Yeah.
And I always try to
Yeah.
tell agents like our you have to position yourself as the expert advisor when it comes to real estate. And
Yeah.
sometimes when you have another career going on at the same time,
Right.
those individuals look at you as what they know you as, not what you're trying to be.
Yeah.
Right. And even if you're part time in real estate, you need to switch the mindset of I'm actually full time in real estate, but part time in my current job. So how
Right.
did you navigate those? And second part of that is
I
reaching
think
out
the
to those
biggest thing was
people.
education, to be honest, because
Mhm.
the more classes you can take. I got my SRS and my ABR pretty young in my career, and honestly, the smarter and more educated you can be, the more people are going to trust you and believe that you know what you're doing. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
And since then, I've done my GRI and a few other things, but um, honestly, flipping homes really helped me because I mean, I can go through a home and point out probably 15 things that most other agents won't even know what they're looking at or won't even know what they are.
Yeah.
And I am constantly preaching to my new agents that once you have stopped learning, you've stopped your business, you've stopped
Mhm.
your career
Yeah.
because there's always something new to learn. There's always something that's going to change, with homestead taxes and how that changed, 5 years ago or whatever. There's just always something new that you need to add to your tool belt as to why you can continue to remain a value add to
Yeah.
any of your clients, whether they're buyers or sellers or, whatever their current life situation is.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think right now, a lot of people, a lot of agents are saying, well, no one's selling, no one's buying, right? Interest rates are too high. And, I keep trying to push my agents to reach out to your database and talk about the power of a home equity line of credit. And I bet out of your database, there's probably a handful of people that would be interested in learning how to leverage that into a
Yeah.
rental property or into an investment property or,
Mhm.
whatever the case may be. And you might be able to get a couple more transactions out of that database that you didn't think was possible because
Right.
you understand what equity means and how to leverage that. Because the average homeowner doesn't know, right? Like, in
Right.
my opinion.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so so when did so you were flipping homes? Were you also licensed at that same time and selling, or
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was that kind of your uh, two-headed monster as far as how your career went? Was, hey, I'm always going to be doing
Um,
investment stuff on the side and then
yeah.
real
Yeah.
sales?
I was juggling a lot for a while. I tried to do several flips a year. It got to the point where, once my business was so big, I don't want to even say so big, but just, there's just only so much time in a day that you can't be, babysitting contractors. And that was another thing that I did, is that I subcontracted everything out myself as well. So I wasn't just hiring one contractor and saying go and do it. I
Yeah,
feel like I kind of started that initially back, the first couple of homes I did, but I mean, you don't realize you're spending an extra 15 to 35% more by hiring a contractor versus subbing everything out yourself. So I think that's another reason why I continue to add um, clients to my database, because I'll run into somebody at a football game and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I need a plumber. Yeah. Okay.
mhm,
Here's my plumber. I need an electrician. And if you don't have those contacts and that, that database that's readily available to you, that they can just be like, oh, I know Amy Paul. Yep. I'll take care of you next week. It's just another level of that added value that you can bring to people that aren't even using you, to be honest. That,
yeah,
hopefully 4 years, 5 years down the road, those are going to be the people that remember, oh, she's always helped me along the road. I mean,
yeah,
a lot of newer agents think of it as very short term. How do I make a sale? How do
yeah,
and yes, obviously you need that to survive and pay your bills. But at the same time, if you are constantly adding people into your pipeline that maybe even 10 years down the road, I mean, I have people call me that, they've been getting my mailings for 10 years and I never did anything for them. And here they
yeah,
are.
yeah.
So at
I
that
always
point,
tell
it
agents,
becomes a little added bonus.
yeah, no, I always tell agents, I'm like, hey, the commission, feels just as good next year as it would right now, right?
Yeah.
It's a hard balance of like, yes, we all need the now business because we have the now bills, but if you are constantly always building for that future pipeline, the future becomes the now, right? And you just have
Right.
to kind of be able to navigate that stretch of time of when the future business becomes the now business.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, and
curious with,
so many shows make real estate out to be
yeah.
so glamorous. I know I'm driving the BMW or the Mercedes, and it's like you don't have to start there.
Yeah,
I was driving a minivan. I don't care. I could name three other agents that I know that sell way more real estate than I do. They don't drive a nice car. You know what
yeah,
I mean? It's like they're not living over their means. They're just hard workers, and they're really really knowledgeable about what they're doing, and that's why
yeah.
they continue to grow their business.
And
So
I think too that's where some agents are going to get caught this year is agents aren't going to be willing to change their lifestyle to be
yeah,
able to survive the business, and they're
yeah,
going to change their business to be able to maintain the lifestyle, and then it's
yeah,
just going to be slow.
yeah,
I'll say a slow death of real estate,
yeah.
for them, in my opinion. But I'm curious, you mentioned something, and this just popped into my head, about especially you built your business through your sphere of influence and bringing value to the people that already know you, like you, and trust you. As agents, like, why can't you, and vendors, right? Your contractors and stuff. There's 4 seasons in the year. Every start of the next season, you should be sending out a vendor list of people that they may need during that season, right? So we're coming up on winter, right? Hey, I got a snowplow company, right? Hey, I got you probably need, well, everyone should have their furnaces on now, but hey, you probably need to
Right.
have your furnace serviced, right? Here's
Yeah,
an HVAC
yeah,
company. Hey,
yeah,
if you want someone to hang your Christmas lights, here's a company for you, right? Like, and that's value add, right? And a lot of agents struggle with how to reach out to their database, whether it's sphere of influence or
yeah.
internet leads, open house leads, or whatever.
Well, and I like your point that, there's so many agents that reach out and just say, hey, how you been? They're not really calling to give them anything, but it's like, hey, did you remember to unhook your hose bib? Because if it's still connected through the winter, there is a chance that it could freeze. I mean, not always, but
Right.
just to give them that little tidbit of, hey, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm just calling to let you know, here's something I would recommend doing versus, hey, do you have a client for me this week? Or, I haven't had a referral from you in 3 months. Where have you been? It's kind of it's more of a helpful versus a cutthroat kind of phone call. So,
Yeah, I mean, like
but
like the simple stuff, right? It's like, we had our ductwork cleaned this year, and how many people actually think about getting their ductwork cleaned, right? But
right.
you could be that connection piece, right? And show the value as to why you want to do it, right? And all of those things.
Yeah,
One was like, hey, just curious, you may want to go up in your attic and just check before the winter months just to make sure everything still looks good. Hey,
yeah,
if you want someone else to do it, I have a contractor for you to do that, right? Insulation, all of those things. Like those are ways that agents can be reaching out to the database and bringing value, and then just staying top of mind,
right,
which is
right.
ultimately the goal. Amy, I'm
Yeah.
curious, as you built your career, over the last 19, 20 years, um, you now have an office. When did you decide that, you want to kind of take on more of that role and responsibility, and
Uh,
curious as to why?
that's a good question. No, I was previously with very, very long time. And it wasn't that I wasn't happy. Um, I just felt like I needed to take things to the next level somehow. I taught classes at Hondros for a while. The biggest one that I ever taught there was called Rehab Addict. I think that's what it was called at least. Um, and believe it or not, I've had several people since then that have approached me and been like, oh my gosh, I remember that class. That was so informative. And obviously, I can talk a lot so that, I don't have a lot of boring lull time in my classes. But at any rate, I just wanted to help new agents. And I felt like that was the way to continue to grow my business and to really show that this is my home base. I can have closings at my own office, things like that. And I guess that's kind of why I did it. And for any agents that are listening that do not go into an office, I preach it all day long. And I already had a very, very strong business, but when I opened my office and was forced to go in because I wanted to be available to my other agents Monday through Friday, my business grew another 2 million that first year.
Yeah.
So, and following years, even, more. I'm coming up now, I think, on my 6th year. It will be my 6th year of owning an emerge office. So,
Why do you think your business grew by 2 million that first year?
laundry, kids, dogs, dishes, got to paint this room, got to clean this up, I have horrible OCD, which makes you very good at multitasking, but at the
Yeah,
same time, very easily distracted.
yeah,
And when I was in my office, I was forced to do things that I might be like, oh, I got to switch out the laundry again. I constantly had it and even though I was very good at, time blocking and time management, it was really easy for me to be like, oh, I can go to the gym for an hour now. I can do
mhm,
this I'm just going to go out shopping and then I'll come back and finish this up. And when you're sitting at a desk, there's really no excuse. When you force yourself, I'm going to be here from, this time to this time every single day. If you need me, here's when you can find me here.
yeah,
Granted, with the exception of appointments and things like that. Obviously, I need to be doing those too. But,
yeah,
my all of my agents know that I will make myself available as much as I absolutely can. So, yeah,
yeah. It's the distractions, right? And the office is going to have its own set of distractions too. But to
for sure.
me, it's always real estate stays top of mind longer when you're at the office versus at
Yeah,
home. Like
yeah,
I can work from home now, but to me, the office means work, right? And home means home, even though we do work from home. But that's just here
right,
is how I,
right.
separate those two. And you're spot on. I mean, it's just, when you're going into that environment of, and other people are in there and they're doing real estate and you're not, it kind
I
of
mean,
forces you to be like, hey, I
it's
need to
the
be doing
best way to
something.
bounce ideas. What do you have
Yeah.
coming? Of the newest listings, of who's doing a price reduction. Oh, I heard her on that call. I never thought to mention, something about what they're paying in rent or whatever it is. You're constantly learning new and different things. And it goes back to, again, when you stop learning, you're not growing anymore. And there are so many agents, even out of my office, any office, that
Mhm.
they never go in, and they don't, everybody doesn't even know who they are. And to me, some of my real estate relationships with other agents have been the best part of my business, because those are the realtors that I can call and be like, hey, I'm going to write on your house. What do I need to do? And granted, yes, you cannot break ethics and things like that, but you've already built a rapport with them. They know you're
Yep.
going to get to the closing table. They know what you're doing. They know you've got strong clients if you've got a strong pre-approval, and yada, on and on and on. So
And if things do come up, which they do happen in real estate deals, right? Like not everything is just smooth sailing. Very rarely do we get that pleasure.
right.
Um, those agents, they know that it's not ego based, right? It's not I'm going to get one up on Amy, right? Watch me. It's no, like, hey, because I
They're
know
gonna
you, we're
right.
now going to work together, right? How do we, the emotions come down a little bit, and now it's like, how do we keep this together, right?
Yeah.
And honestly,
Either that, or the other agent is gonna fix it and call you once it's already fixed, versus
yeah,
maybe a brand new agent or somebody that doesn't know exactly how to handle the problem, which is fine too, because obviously stuff happens. But you just can't call freaking out and, oh my God, this is all going to fall apart. You have to
yeah.
come up with solutions before you start freaking out about the problem.
And honestly, if you're listening to this and you don't have relationships with other agents in your marketplace, I was that agent. Probably for the first 6, 7 years of my career, I was like, I don't give a shit about any other agents. Like, I just want to focus on myself and the team, right? And then as I've gotten older and wiser, and things have changed, and
Go to the bowling events, go to the, whatever, go to
but it
your
honestly has helped.
area realtor association events. I mean, it's so, just building rapport with
Yeah,
other people in the industry. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be other agents. It's, ways of building relationships with inspectors and carpet installers. And I mean, on and on and on. The list is
yeah,
huge just from going
yeah.
to those things. So, yeah.
And all of those people know people that own, that want to buy, that want to invest in real estate,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I wish I would have been, less focused on me earlier on in my career, and more of that. But here we are.
Uh,
So you're running the office now. I want to kind of switch gears to like future focus of where you want to kind of build things, and where you want to get to.
yeah.
What's something that you're looking to accomplish in the next 12 months?
12 months, probably just continue to grow the number of agents that I have here. Um, I would say long term, I have always wanted to get my license in another state. It seems like everybody seems to go to Florida to do that. I don't know if I'm there yet, but maybe the Carolinas, maybe, somewhere warmer. We'll see. I don't know if it'll ever come to fruition, but maybe that's my little twinkle light, my North Star. I don't know, but yeah, that's always been at the back of my mind.
What has you, is that like a 5-year goal for you?
Mhm. Yeah.
What what has you thinking, doing that? Just kind of expanding, or
Um,
uh,
Kind of selfishly expanding, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm not a fan of the cold. I'm not, but there's challenges in itself when somebody
mhm,
calls you from, let's say, North Carolina. Hey, I want to go see a home, and you're in Ohio. Well, obviously that's not very easy. And so that's kind of where I'm struggling with, is that I have always been very readily available for my clients. And if I'm not, my assistant is, or I will get somebody to help them immediately, and that's a little bit more challenging if you got to get on an airplane or drive 12 hours to get to them.
right.
So that's kind of where I'm stuck. I haven't pulled the trigger just yet, but we'll see. Maybe
What do
someday.
what do you think, because you've built an office with 19 agents, what do you think that you would need to put in place or have in order to be able to accomplish that goal?
Um, Probably double the number of agents here, and then have another mentor out of the office and maybe a manager too.
Hmm.
So, I have a licensed assistant here so that if I'm gone, I still have somebody that can show houses, write contracts, all that stuff for me, whether it's
Yeah.
my client or his client or whoever. But I definitely would need a couple other people to be able to take that time, because right now I review every client, every
Mhm.
contract, every listing, every, all of that
Yeah.
managerial side of stuff. Would Some of it's going to have to come off my plate at some point.
Well, and a lot of agents struggle with that, right? Because they feel like they have to be the one that their clients deal with.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
And I have too. I'm
I
not
mean
gonna
it's
lie. That's a good thing that brought up, because that's how you really build strong relationships. But if you're the one that sat down with them and you have an assistant, bring the assistant, make sure they're in on things, and then maybe they show houses half the time and you show houses the other half. I mean, it's got to be a balance. And there are certain clients of mine that are third, fourth, fifth,
Mhm.
buyers, sellers. I usually take care of them all the time because they expect to see me.
Yeah.
So it just depends. But yeah, that's a tough one even for me.
Well, it's interesting because Ryan, who's my team lead and mentor, always taught me the power of leverage. So when I got with him, when I started my career, it was always, hey, John, all of his clients, if they were buying a house, they used me. If they listed a house, they used him. And it was always, here's why we do it that way. And here's why it's a benefit to you as a client for John to be showing you these homes, and
Yeah,
why it's a benefit to you to have me listing the homes, right? And Ryan's
yeah,
talking.
no,
And you mentioned that your sphere of influence typically want to help you and to succeed when you're starting your business, right? Getting real estate going. It's also true with those people that have used you 4 or 5 times and they want to see you be successful and they
mhm,
want to see you grow. And a lot of agents are just having that conversation of saying, hey Amy, I would love to work with you, but I'm in the growth process of really building my business and expanding my business, and I brought in so and so to be able to make sure that you get all of the communication and the service that you deserve that I gave you over all of
right,
these years. And
right,
by doing this is going to allow me to continue to grow my business and my brand. And most of my clients are like,
cool.
okay. Yeah, all
Right,
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 awesome. Because I basically tell them like, "Hey, I'm not the best fit for you anymore. I'm still here. I'm still going to be involved. I'm still going to be around. But here's why you don't want me showing homes to you, right? Here's
right,
why I'm bringing in someone else, and it's because you are busy. You have 19, other agents, right? There are times where I go a couple hours without communication, back via text or phone call or whatever.
yeah.
So, a lot of agents struggle with that conversation, but it's because they think their clients are going to leave you. And some may, right? But the majority want to see you grow and build something special.
I think that you completely, hit the nail on the head when you said it's all about communication and setting expectations. And if you're like, okay, these emails are going to come from so and so, I'm reading them, I understand what's going on, but it allows me to focus on, XYZ. It's just about putting it all up front,
Yeah.
like, hey, you can text me at 2 o'clock in the morning, but I'm not going to respond,
Right.
those type
Right.
of things too. I mean, and I used to even have for my buyers like an expectation sheet. Well, when and how do you want to hear from me? Because this is what kind of I expect from you in return. And I mean, now it's more fluid and I just kind of get to know the client, what they
Yeah.
prefer. But, for somebody that's new, that might help them to have that, put in writing and kind of just set their, I mean, I feel like I fell into the trap for years that, I mean, I was working 70 plus hours a week because I always wanted to be available. I always wanted to be, call me anytime, 10 o'clock at night. Great. I'm still sitting on my computer. And I was guilty of that for a long time. And now I feel like I've completely, well, at least hopefully, I feel like I've reined things in to have a much better work-life balance,
Yeah.
and see the true value of having an assistant and things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the reason why you got into real estate in the first place, right? Because you wanted more freedom and flexibility. And that's
Right.
the thing, right?
Right.
That's the trap. That is the trap of real estate agents is you leave a career because you don't like being told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But the most
Yeah.
successful people tell themselves what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But then if you don't create leverage,
Yeah.
then you are just working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And
Yeah.
that wasn't the original goal. So, you got to get out of your own way
But
and
I also looked at it as it was my decision. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I worked 70 hours a week because I chose to, and I knew that, maybe around the holidays or whatever, I was going to have a slower month. So, it was give and take, and it
yeah.
worked for me. It doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amy, what's a legacy goal for you? What's a goal that you want to hit that, when you're
Mm.
no longer here?
Um, that's a good question. And I'm going to use Cynthia McKenzie. I don't know if you know her or not. She is a very well known agent with Keller Williams who took over an older agent's business and completely transformed it to a strong business, to an unbelievable business, if that makes any
Mm-hmm.
sense at all. Um, just based on, using a CRM correctly and follow up and staying in touch with clients and continuing to build on what you already had and still grow. And I would love to pass that on to somebody someday, whether it's my assistant or the whoever, going back to the brokerage, whatever. But I just constantly try to train and teach and inspire, um, new agents, and it's not for everybody. But I feel like I help a few.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
So,
awesome. Last question for you. If you could give the audience one piece of advice that maybe you always give, or one piece of advice that you received early on, that you take to heart, or one piece of advice that you wish you were told, when you got into this business, what would that be?
it's not as easy as it looks. That's more of a phrase. I mean, it is a grinding business. It is. And you are not going to be successful until you step out of your comfort zone. So, any new agent that does not want to pick up the phone and make phone calls, at some point, you have to break that barrier down in order to go to the next level. You can only hide behind a phone and a computer, texting and things like that for so long before you're going to have to make phone calls. And, people laugh, and I still make cold calls. I still call internet leads. People are like, why? You've been doing this for 20 years. It's like, you just never know. They might be my next buyer. That's part of my time blocking for my phone
Yeah,
calls. So, I just highly encourage everybody to keep taking classes. I mean, I know some of the inspectors teach home building classes. You can learn from doing walkthroughs with, new builds prior to somebody closing. I mean, there's just constantly stuff to learn. And the more that you can learn, the better value you're going to be able to provide.
yeah.
So
Awesome. Amy,
that was
I really
probably like way too many things. That wasn't just one thing, but
no, I mean, there is never just one thing, right? Like, that's the
right.
thing is like there's not just one thing, right? There's no secret sauce. That's why I love having agents on here and sharing stories is because it's not just one thing, right? Like if
I
you
like that
really
secret sauce. I'm gonna have to use that.
if you wanted to really break it down, at the end of the day, our only job is to have conversations around real estate every single day,
Mhm.
right? Like that's it. It doesn't, if you want one thing, how many people did you talk to today about real estate? It doesn't matter how it happens, doesn't matter where it happened. That's the number one metric. And the more conversations you have, the more clients you're going to get. But there is no one thing, right? It's a business and it's ever changing and problems are always happening. And, you solve one problem and three more get created and then you solve two of those. And it is what it is, right?
And it's
Um,
constantly evolving. So,
exactly.
I always challenge my new agents to, join a, if they're not athletes, maybe it's book reading or walking or a parent group, or any way that you're going to be in front of people that you can have those real estate conversations with. um my kids are getting older. I'm gonna have to come up with some other stuff. I can't keep using the schools and my sponsorships and stuff like that. So now I've got to find probably an old lady club to join of some sort. So yeah.
Amy, for those that are listening and maybe not watching, and those that were watching, if you guys are, thinking about buying or selling, investing in real estate here in Central Ohio, please hit up Amy. If you guys are a real estate agent and you just loved her story and connected with her story, her phone number is down below. Please reach out to her. Amy, those that are listening in on the podcast version,
Yeah.
what is the best way for someone to connect with you?
Most of my social media handles are Amy Paul Realtor. So I am on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it. Pretty much anytime you type in Amy Paul Realtor, you're going to find about 12 different ways to connect with me. So, yeah, any one of those is fine. I try to keep up with all of them.
Awesome. Well, Amy, thanks so much again today for jumping on here. Really, diving in and sharing your journey and your story and how you grew your business. If I can ever do anything for you to help you out, and your our missions are aligned. We both love helping agents get into this business and find their own success. So, if I can ever be of service to you and help you out in any way, please reach out to me. I'm here to help.
Sounds good. I appreciate it.
Awesome. I'll talk to you here soon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye bye.